comment, that's the truest thing, what you just said. That is and anyone who doesn't understand that should shut the f up. And I mean it.
I think that the whole point of having children as a whole is to instill them with your worldview. I know if I have children, I want them to be like me. We just talked about my last name and how I want them to honor me into post-death. Then I want them to be a representation of me, which means they should believe in my values and my creeds. Why is a group of people in New York walking around telling me what they're going to teach my kids and what my kids should believe? They're not your kids, they're my kids.
Right.
And that's what's so scary, because children are impressionable and children are raised by the state and the internet, effectively, which is why they want me off the internet. But they'll let a lot of people stay on the internet that say a lot of things. I'll argue that if I was transgender, the American embassy would have told Romania they were bigoted and removed me pretty quickly. I would genuinely argue that point. They would say, no, what you're doing is abusive to the LGBT community. He must be removed from jail.
Of course, immediately.
Immediately. But because I'm straight and heterosexual, it doesn't matter. We're the class that suffers the biggest bigotry that possibly exists in the Western world today. I would actually argue that point. But they're saying this to be deliberately provocative. They're deliberately trying to upset people. They want to upset you so that when you talk against it, they can call you names and call you a bigot. And also, they mean what they say. And it's truly scary.
Why do you think support for the war in Ukraine, support for Ukraine's side in the war against Russia, support for a war against Russia in the West, is kind of the bottom line issue for the people who run the U.S. government and for the American media? Why? I mean, I guess you could argue about it,
yep.
But there isn't an argument about it in the United States. There's a position, and anyone who doesn't hold it is attacked and punished. Why? Why is that so important?
Well, the first thing I think we should all do is I think we should all give Putin credit for curing COVID, right? Because when his invasion happened, COVID went away.
So I thought about that.
Think about it. It's almost to the day. So we have to give him some credit at least for doing that. He may be the bad guy of the world, but at least he cured COVID for everybody, nearly instantly.
Fair.
Thank you, President Putin. I, up until this point, never really commented too heavily on politics.
Yes.
But I understand very well, I like to believe, what's happening with Ukraine and Russia. And what I will say to the people who are watching this at home is that if you are naive enough to believe that there are good guys and bad guys in wars, and it's as simple as good and bad, and that the bad guys are crazy and the good guys want freedom, then you need to do a little bit more investigation into what's really happening. And when you look at the vested interest of any country or any person...
Can I just ask you to pause and just comment, that's the truest thing, what you just said. That is and anyone who doesn't understand that should shut the fuck up. And I mean it. Having seen war, anyone who's telling you that it's Churchill versus Hitler is an idiot.
Well, I'll give you an example. When my father was still alive, I think that if you are black, white, Asian, I think if you stand up, self-respect, work hard, try your best, turn up on time, firm handshake, don't make excuses for anything, don't look for an easy way out, no matter what your skin color is, in America or England or any other Western nation, I think you can be extremely successful. I don't think anything's stopping you.
That's not the message you get from, say, Kamala Harris, who's also mixed race. Her dad was Jamaican, her mom is Indian.
Yeah.
But race is really at the center of her identity and her politics. What do you make of, say, Kamala Harris?
Well, let's look at why they purport the idea that depression is so powerful and that you can just catch it from the sky and now you're permanently depressed no matter what happens to you and there's nothing you can do about it and you can't improve your life and you can't be a better person, right? It's that self-limiting belief. I think by also pushing this racism argument, it's also very much the same thing. I think if you adopt that mindset, if you wake up and you're a particular color, you're purple, and you believe purple people can't make it, what's your chance of making it? 0.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what's so destructive about it. This is why I'll even argue when I argue this point with people and they try and say, oh, but this happens, and they pull out these statistics and all this garbage from the Matrix. I say, listen, even if the world's racist against purple people, the best thing you can do is be such an exceptional purple person that they need you they need you. The only answer is hard work. The only answer is self-accountability, masculine essence, honor, dignity, making your ancestors proud of you because you hold the same last name as them. The answer is the same regardless anyway. But when people like Kamala are pushing this racism agenda, They're trying to say to people effectively, you'll never be anything, and you don't stand a chance of ever being anything. And I think that that makes people who aren't anything feel a little bit better about themselves. It's cope. And that's the only fans she has left, are losers who she's told it's okay to be a loser because there's no way you could have not been a loser. And I will argue you could have been something a lot more than that. And you shouldn't listen to anybody who tells you you're not going to be a loser. If someone were to come to me and say, Andrew, you're mixed race, you're from a single mother household, you're never going to be rich, I'll say, watch me. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Who are you? So everything she's saying is, one, wrong. Two, it's destructive to believe in. Three, I think it's her last hope at having any kind of fan at all because she's largely incompetent. I don't think I've ever heard her put a compendious, coherent sentence together. And perhaps also, maybe that's the reason why she leans so heavily on race, because she's not impressive or competent, so she can say, oh, but I'm this color and I did it, instead of actually talking about how good of a job she's doing. Because if you have to discuss that part of her career, or that part of her current life path, I think she'd be in a lot of trouble. It was interesting for me because, and I want to be an optimist, but I lost so much faith in humanity during COVID. I really, if you would have told me how COVID would have gone down before COVID, I'd say, no way. We're not that bad. You know, like, I thought the people aren't that dumb. But when I experienced COVID, it's actually scary. You see how the Nazis managed to do what they did. You see how they managed to put people in concentration camps. You see it.